Welcome back to the Chosen Journey with Big Money Grip, Steve Carsey, and Jonathan, the Chosen Lawyer. Toronto fans, I know you're all excited. You got playoff fever going. So we got to add to your joy today. Christmas has come early because we found him for you. One of your favorite sons of all time, the one, the only, Rob Ducey. Rob, welcome to the Chosen Journey.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you.
I'm a little blown away. And Steve, you're going to laugh at this one because, you know, forever we picture Rob as looking as a 21-year-old, and the man does not age. Still hasn't, but apparently he's Grandpa Robert Ducey. True or false?
True, very true. Yesterday,
Congratulations.
the, the, very,
Congratulations.
the very first day that I got to hold her, a little Amelia.
Amazing. Grandpa Robert Thomas Ducey, born May 24th, 1965, hailing from Ontario, Canada. Now, we're on different zones. So I'm in Toronto, still here, still waiting for you to come back, Rob. We're still holding out hope. And in the meantime, Steve is in Arizona. You're in Florida. The two of you are doing something very right. I think I'm doing something very, very wrong because our winters are not as fun as yours.
Well, I tell
I
you what,
agree.
I tell my father all the time, you have a choice. You have a choice. He doesn't like the cold weather. You got a choice. So,
Yeah, it's really tough, right? In the north. Obviously I grew up in New York City and we've had many a snowstorms. Obviously, Rob being in Toronto and you're there now, you still get to experience the snow. It might be turning right now for you guys, right? Mid-September, the weather starts turning. It's not quite as hot, but we get enough of that in Arizona. I'm waiting for it to cool down as well, but our cool is like 75. So you need to get out of there and join us out here in Arizona.
Steve
ooh,
always tells me he never feels sorry for me because he says you're just one plane ticket away, buddy. So I hear you. I hear you. When you have family obligations and life obligations, but I was down to visit Steve in Scottsdale, Rob. First time ever in Arizona. I've been to Florida many times. The climate is pretty incredible over there. I was pretty blown away.
I spent two spring trainings with the Seattle
Yeah,
Mariners out there, and I just felt it was like too dry. So
agreed.
nosebleeds, blah blah blah. I just here, yeah, it's humid, but at least it's similar to Ontario as far as the humidity in the air. In Arizona, it was too dry for me.
You get used to it, but you're correct. It's something that you really have to get used to.
Now, folks, we're going to get into locations and where Rob has played because today is all about Rob. And Rob, this is your life. And as I was telling you off the air the other day, I feel like I'm the leading Rob Ducey historian here for the amount of research I put together. And I try to put timelines and everything else. And we will get to it. But before we do, an interesting kind of connection between you and Steve, besides the fact you both were in the Jays organization, is kind of a transitional because Rob, you're currently coaching high school baseball over in Florida, and Steve is grooming his son as he's on the path to high school baseball. So Steve was very curious to ask you some questions about the high school ball part of it because a lot of our viewers on the show have talked about young kids and the pathways and how high school ball works, and I think there's a lot of misconceptions out there about that.
Yeah, for me, Rob, like I'm coaching my son's 13U team and we're a club team, right? It's not quite high school at this point. But, I guess what I wanted to ask you is like what is the difference in the way you coach out there in high school is a way a club team teaches because we've had shows in the past that we've talked about how difficult it is because the fundamental foundation in club baseball is not being set because it's all about winning and the dollars. And it's not about teaching the boys the correct way to play the game, both on the defensive side of the ball and on the offensive side of the ball, about situational hitting. It's all about how far can I hit the ball? What is my exit velocity? What is my launch angle? Instead of, hey, there's a man on second. I need you to get this guy over with a ground ball to the right side, or or drive the ball in the air if you're trying to hit a ground ball and get them over to third with less than 2 outs. So I just wanted to ask you the difference, you've seen in the state of Florida with the way club is run, and then obviously the way you run it, and then how high school is being taught.
I think you hit the nail on the head right there, Steve, as far as what's not being taught and what's important at the club level, or perfect game and prospect wire and those types of scenarios. It's play games and it's light up the radar gun. It doesn't matter whether you throw strikes or not. It doesn't matter
That's
whether
true.
you move the runner or not. It doesn't matter whether you strike out or not. Where I differ is, and I was talking to the kids the other day, I want them to be able to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
Just play the game, move the runners, induce a ground ball. If not try to, throw 100 because none of them can. Uh, it's especially my school. I have a little tiny private Catholic high school, and we compete. We actually did very, very well last year. We go out and compete, but every single day, it's focus on playing the game and playing the game the way, whether it's the new school, old school, it should be the right school. Baseball has been, around for 120 years, whatever, 125 years. What's the right way to play? And what's the respect factor? I schedule teams based on their coaching and how they handle their players. If they don't handle their players and it's a free for all in the dugout during the game, and they're barking and they're yelling and the coach doesn't control that, they're not going to be on my schedule next year. Mm-hmm. So I build my schedule around that. But as far as what is being taught, man, it's individualized. It's dig me and it's showtime. Well, I get it, but you still have to be able to play the game to help that college coach. And being a high school coach, that high school or the college coach needs to win. So you have to be able to help him win. If you can't help a college coach win, he's got no use for you. So I really try to enforce just to play the game, move the runners. And you said it, in your statement, moving the runners, playing good defense, knowing your hitters, being ready to go in the game. Guys just sit on the bench and kind of watch. So like, dude, hey, you ready to go? You better get up off the bench and start stretching. Because if you don't, I'll move on next, and you'll lose an opportunity. So whether that's old school or hard on the players or expecting too much, so be it. So far, they've been very receptive to it, and hopefully it continues.
Now I'm gonna throw, because we're gonna start, because we started now where you're at today. I want to go back to the beginning, and we're gonna kind of jump between places. I have like patches of information I'm gonna throw out there about Rob's life. Curious to hear Rob's reaction when he hears this, and Steve's as well, because of the timelines and you both being familiar with the Jays organization and Major League Baseball in general. So firstly, Rob, last MLB game, July 22nd, 2001, but started off 84 Medicine Hat baseball debut, 19 years old, played along with Greg Myers, if we throw out a name. We're going to throw out a lot of names today. Back then, as Rob pointed out to me in our discussion, Canadians were not eligible for the draft. That's kind of mind-blowing now when you think about it. And at the time, my understanding was you were the MVP of that Medicine Hat team, correct? In rookie ball.
Correct.
Tell me, going out to Medicine Hat, starting off your career, walk us through the feelings of that as a youngster, 19 years old. Is it what you pictured? And what was like the first time going out there, and what was that like?
Well,
a couple moons ago.
It was many moons ago, but I'll tell you a story. Sunday night, after my very first week, Sunday night, I called home collect, and I told, and you know, some people are like, collect. The older people, yeah, we know what collect is. Steve, do you know what collect is?
I know what collect is and what the phone booths are and where they were attached to the wall where you had to make a phone call.
Correct.
You would collect call from mom. I'll be home in 5 minutes.
Correct. Correct. So a week into my career, I call home collect because I called home every Sunday night. And I told my stepdad, I said, hey, I don't belong here. These guys are too good. We had a two-sport All-American football slash baseball player in right field. We had a guy who ended up leading, well, that was Brian Morrison. Uh, Eric Yelding led the Houston Astros led the National League in stolen bases one year. He ran a 6.2 60. And Darrell Landrum in left field, 6'3", knuckles dragged on the ground, and he hit balls in the lights. And I'm looking at these guys. I don't look like him. I can't run like him. I can't hit a ball like him. I don't belong here. And you know, my dad said, hey, to see what happens, go out and play, and you get an opportunity. Because I was the fourth outfielder. I was, you know, just if whenever someone needed a day off or whatever, I got a chance to go out and play. Well, the football player tore his hamstring. Hence, I got an opportunity to play. And then I just stayed in the lineup. But initially, I didn't think I belonged because those guys, you look at their skills and what they could do. It wasn't that I was intimidated, but I knew that I couldn't do that. I wasn't built like that. I wasn't, you know, I couldn't do those things physically. Did I want to? Sure, but I just couldn't. So I got fortunate.
And you persevered. And we're going to jump into 1987 in a moment because that was a very big year for many reasons. But firstly, big money grip. If we want to talk about non-drafted Canadians back then, minimum salary, Rob, you and I were talking was about 62,000 and change, 62,500. And Rob got signed for a whopping $7,500. Was that US or Canadian, Rob?
US.
That's like 10,000.
Which back
Canadian.
then it was pretty close.
Yeah.
Different times. Now, 1987, jump forward, 22 years old, first home run, MLB home run. I could not find it. I hope that you remember it. Who did you hit that home run off of?
Mike Kinnunen, left-handed pitcher.
Remember the inning, everything? Is that like it was yesterday?
No. Maybe seventh inning, something like that, somewhere in that range.
Folks, 40 years later, it does get hazy a little bit. And don't know if you recall or not, but you also got 2 stolen bases at that time as well.
Oh, I don't even remember that. I don't actually. I don't remember that. I played golf with Fred McGriff today, and he brought up that game, and he asked me. He said, "Did you hit number 10?" I said, "No. I hit number 8." He said, "Well, who hit number 10?" And we came to a consensus. I think he hit 9, and Ernie Witt hit 10. So,
well,
yeah,
it's back
pretty good.
And it was back in old Exhibition Stadium on your home turf.
Wow.
And
yes.
and of course, the day that he gets his first MLB home run, September 14, 1987, George Bell had 2 of them. Now, Georgie had a pretty good year that year. Looking through, it's funny, you know, talking about Exhibition Stadium, manager Jimmy Williams, GM Pat Gillick. You know Pat very well, Steve, obviously.
Mm-hmm.
Running through some of these names, you're talking Witt, Upshaw, Ord, Fernandez, Gruber, Bell, Mosby, Barfield, McGriff, Cecil Fielder, Liriano, Cerruti, Wells, Ward, like Dave Steve, Jimmy Key. It does goes on and on and on. Jim Clancy, Tom Henke. You played with some greats, and you know that 87 season always kind of stuck out to Jays fans because they came so close. And being on that squad, what was the vibe like? Were they fairly certain they were going World Series bound that year?
Well, at least the playoffs. At least the playoffs. I mean, when we get swept in Detroit, that was like, what happened? We were a really, really good team. And man, we just ran into a buzzsaw. Their pitching just shut out our team down. Um, you can say, well, an error here or this a misplay there. No, their pitching was really good, led obviously by Jack Morris.
Mm.
And so Steve watches baseball pretty much every day. As far as I know, I watch every day. Rob does not watch. So he plays, he coached, scouted, but does not watch currently, which is all good. He's living it. But if you were watching right now, you'd see that the Texas Rangers are doing their best impersonation of the Blue Jays from '87. They lost something like 12 out of 15 or something like that. They held a stranglehold on the AL West, and they're now out of the playoffs as it currently stands. Not even the wild card with all the wild cards. Remember back when there was no wild cards, when it was AL East, AL West, NL East, NL West. Now you got Central divisions. You got 3 playoff wild cards to add to the mix. Feels like everybody's making the playoffs, but right now Texas is not, and the Jays and the Rangers are battling at it. So certainly the Rangers can relate to that '87 squad. The funny other thing about the 1987 season, Steve, and I had to do a lot of research to figure this one out, but my first MLB game ever, Rob did play in it.
Is that right? That you went to? No kidding.
I messaged the friend who took me. So my dad passed away. You know, my friend and his dad felt sorry for me, so they took me to my first MLB game to kind of cheer me up. We go to Exhibition Stadium, and I looked because I remembered it was against the Mariners. I remembered that we won, the Jays won, but the Jays had won all 3 games. The Friday and the Sunday games, it was almost identical scores. Both went into extra innings, but it was definitely the Sunday game because it was an afternoon game, whereas the Friday game was a night game. So, Rob, it was Sunday, September 6th, 1987. You pinch ran for, of course, George Bell. Jimmy Key pitched 9 innings that day. The Jays won it in the 11th. And George Bell had his 43rd home run off Scott Bankhead. David Wells pitched in that game as well. He was a rookie, I believe, that year. I remember him trotting in. It's my first baseball game ever. He's trotting in around the 10th. I take one look at this guy. I said, yeah, he's not going to last. This guy does not look like a ball player at all. And how wrong was I? And believe it or not, in Exhibition Stadium, the mistake by the lake over there, and they got 44,287 people. But as much as he tried, Rob could not remember that magical day, even though it was a magical day for me.
Very good. Hey, Jonathan, actually, Steve asked me the relevance of that day, if I remembered.
Mm-hmm.
I said you had 2 most important days in '87, your major league debut, and you were at my MLB debut.
There you go.
Now,
Perfect.
Rob indicated that he did lead the league that time and for several years in high fives.
I did.
I gotta say, I was talking to a guy on eBay, and he had some special journal photos, originals, and I couldn't get it in time, but there was a shot of you giving a high five.
No, that's what I
what is
tell
with the high
people all the
fives?
time. No, Jonathan, Steve, I tell people all the time. I said, you know what? I was the worst major league player of all time, and I led the league in high fives. I did it for a long time, but I was just a guy that, I was there, piece of the furniture kind of. I was the piece that everybody needed, but nobody wanted.
But yet 19 seasons across the board in several levels. And
But you know what I call that, Jonathan? I got to interrupt. You know what I call that?
Please.
I call that being a great teammate. And I teach that to our boys.
Mm-hmm.
There's nothing like being a great teammate. Sometimes things aren't going to go your way, right? Maybe you're not playing that day. Maybe you're having a bad game. But there's no reason not to cheer your teammates on and be excited for them when they score a run or your team scores a run. So it's a big thing. It's something I've learned over the course of my career as well. A lot of people have told me, like, when I ask them, like, what do you want to be remembered by? And he goes, it's great to have the stats. It's great to have all of that. But if somebody can tell another person that I was a great teammate, that means the most to me. And, that just exemplifies, what kind of player you were and what kind of teammate you were, obviously.
No, I do agree with that wholeheartedly. I have lifelong friends because of baseball, and I wouldn't trade any of that for the stardom and the fame that some of these guys that have achieved, and rightfully so. But I've played with the Griffies of the world, and they can't go anywhere. They can't go to a restaurant, or they can't go to without being recognized. And it's like, man, I had the anonymity of not, that people not knowing who I was, but I had the lifestyle of the game. So I had the kind of the best of all worlds. I didn't have the two extra zeros at the end of my paycheck, but that's okay too.
Yeah, understood.
I remember being 12 years old and following around Carlton Fisk at the Hilton and trying to get autographs because I was an autograph hound in the day. And I remember following, and he wouldn't sign. He wouldn't sign. He kept telling me, no, 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 no. And finally, I'm like, I don't understand. I'm a kid. I really want your autograph. I'm a big fan. Can't you personalize it? He looks at me, he goes, son, my autograph, my privilege. And years later, I understand because even Wayne Gretzky, Wayne Gretzky, for all his allure, watching him at that same Hilton, the man cannot go 2 seconds without being stopped for a picture, for an autograph. He's trying to have dinner with his family. His family had flown in. They were all sitting there in the restaurant in Trader Vic's at the time. You all probably remember it.
Yeah.
And literally, as you watch from the corner, and you can't go into the restaurant, but like literally every 2 to 5 minutes, someone stops you. At some point, that has to get annoying, I imagine.
I mean,
But
it is
I
what
don't
it
have
is,
that
right?
problem.
I mean, it's part of the job, so to speak. Like there's times when you want your privacy, right? When you're eating dinner with your family, when you're with your kids out shopping or doing something. But there's also a time where you can be respectful, as a player and sign some stuff. That's kind of how I was taught and I went about it.
I could tell you both were very, very accommodating to your fans because if you go search on eBay, Steve Carsey autograph, Rob Ducey autograph, there's a ton of them on eBay right now, just so you know. So uh, I'm sure for some people it's up on their mantle, and other people trying to make a buck, and that's the world of sports memorabilia.